Welcome, innovators, business owners, entrepreneurs, technology experts, academia, government R&D communities, and members of the North Carolina innovation ecosystem. This is Defense Technology Talks, hosted by the North Carolina Defense Technology Transition Office, or NC DEFTECH. This podcast will showcase various technologies with local and national experts who aim to solve complex national security problems. In the coming weeks, we will highlight North Carolinians with the potential to, or those that have positively contributed to enhancing the capabilities of our warfighters, law enforcement, and first responders. We will also feature government leaders in research and development who have helped shape the future in this domain. These podcasts are just one of the many free services provided by the North Carolina government to assist the North Carolina innovation ecosystem to thrive and provide solutions to our nation. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Defense Technology Talks. I'm your host, Rob Robinson, along with my colleague, Bob Burton. We are here to talk to you today about the upcoming cyber opportunity. It opens up in a couple of weeks. It seems like it's miles and miles away, but those quarterly cycles go by pretty quickly. And so if you're not on top of the timeline, and as well as your submission, it can blow right past you. And we have already gone through 2 cyber phases already this fiscal year, and we're heading into fiscal year 23.3, if you can believe it. And so as another word of caution, I would ask you, if you have not submitted, to start preparing one. And if you did submit, take the feedback that you got, if you got any from the technical points of contact, or anybody else that's involved in the process that helped you with your pitch or your presentation. And get ready for the next one, because it seems like it's time consuming, but that's one simple way for you to continue to build passive income and grow your DoD vertical inside your company. But without further ado, I'll pass it over to Bob, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into some of these requirements to paint the picture for you and give you the best opportunity to submit and win in the Department of Defense. Bob, over to you.
All right. Good morning. We think it's important to do this strategic crosswalk to understand where the requirements are coming from. That way we can get ahead and get left of the requirement into the problem space, understanding what the national security strategy says, and then the national critical and emerging technologies list, which we present quite often, because those are the technology areas that are invested, that are sought, and that are needed for our national security. And then, of course, the guidance comes out through the National Defense Strategy, and you may have seen that the President's FY24 budget is already drafted, and DoD is making their contribution. It'll go to Congress, of course, very, very soon. And last year in fiscal year, actually for this current fiscal year 23, we're entering April 1, the third quarter. Remember, the government operates on fiscal years quarters starting in October through September. So you're already entering into the third quarter of the fiscal year. But the RDT&E budget was for research and development for this year was $135 billion. And then this year, the request seems to be approved or will be approved, $143 billion, which is important because that is going to feed the modernization strategies, the modernization priorities for each one of the services. And then talking defense specific, those requirements will come out, those topics will come out in DCIP. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. I think it's important to understand that last year in FY 2022, remember it's still in fiscal year 23, soon to enter 24, October 1st. But the top 4 agencies using the SBIR and STIR program, DoD, Department of Health and Human Services, to include NIH, DOE, and then you may have heard of their organization called ARPA-E, for focusing on energy, similar to DARPA, but a little bit different. DARPA will fall under a little bit more under the DoD. And then, of course, the National Science Foundation. So these are the top users of the SBIR and STIR process. And you can see where almost $4 billion was allocated last year in SBIR funds, and then through research institutions and small businesses through the technology transfer. Rob, why are these numbers important, and you think understanding the racking and stacking of the agencies is important?
I mean, if you look at the priorities of where the funding is going, those are the opportunities that you want to chase. You want to go where the money is. So the upside to that is lots of opportunity for the Department of Defense and Department of Health and Human Services, given the amount of awards that they gave. However, with a large amount of submissions also comes a large amount of competition. So what you have to do is you have to present the best opportunity or your best foot forward when competing in these opportunities. So if you want to go after the $2.2 billion in the Department of Defense, you need to understand that your presentation has to be top notch in order to have the opportunity to win. And there's tons of vehicles to do that. You've got XTech Search, which is an opportunity. You've got multiple different pitch days. SOCOM has a pitch day. There's even, various different companies that are out there in the cyberspace that have pitch opportunities. They have Tech Tuesdays or Tech Thursdays or whatever they call them these days. But it's an opportunity for you to refine your pitch and have multiple opportunities. So when you get in front of that DoD customer, you are succinct, you're accurate, and your information is as advertised. And that's one of the difficulties that I've seen in the past couple of years is that you see a lot of people have great products and poor presentation, and so nobody really wants to follow up with them, or they have a so-so product and a great presentation, and those are the folks that win, but then they eventually don't end up producing something that gets into the hands of an end user in any time or timely manner. So the other piece of this is looking at this budget. It's not only phase one, but you have to look at phase two and phase three operations or phase three opportunities, because again, what the government would like to see is you get to that phase three level, you have a TRL 8 or 9 product that you can transition some variation of it into the commercial sector, and that's what's going to make your company the most profitable. If you do research on business in general, they say, 3 of 10 businesses fail, right? And they say that, but of those remaining 7, only 3 of them will become a household name. So when you're really working on building your business, you have a 30% chance of success or failure, but you also have, about a 20% chance of having a company that lasts 10 to 15 years and either gets bought out or it just runs the course of its useful lifespan. So as you're thinking about building your company, what company do you want to be? Do you want to be that household name? In order for you to be that household name, you have to get to that phase 3 and become commercialized so you can sell it everywhere. And even if it's a licensing or royalty agreement that comes out, you still have the best opportunity to kind of grow your business through these vehicles using the SBIR and the STTR budget. And one of the things that I would caution you on is don't neglect the STTR, particularly if you're in a state like North Carolina. We're pending, but we have a lot of research opportunities here in the university sector. But, rumor has it there's a UARC that's on the table coming up pretty soon here in North Carolina, and that would be a great way to also partner and win some STTR dollars if that or is more suitable for your technology. But I'll pause there and pass it back over to Bob. I think that's enough about the money for the moment.
All right, great points, Ron. Thanks. Yeah, definitely the STTR is partnering with those research institutions is definitely a great idea. But I'm sure everyone's familiar with the objectives of the SBIR and STIR program to stimulate technological innovation. They use a small business to meet federal research and development needs, foster and encourage participation by minorities and disadvantaged groups, and increase private sector commercialization for innovations derived from federal research and development. So the name of the game is commercialization. What is the dual-use viable solution for your technology, and then what is your commercialization pathway? And if you're submitting for a phase 1, especially for a phase 2, you better have a commercialization plan and commercialization pathway. Contact DEFTECH. We can help you walk through the process. SBA, Small Business Administration, has got a lot of tutorials about that. But just a reminder, to be eligible for participation in the SBIR STIR program, you must meet the following criteria: be American-owned, independently operated, be for-profit, have a principal researcher employed by the business, and be limited to 500 employees. So one thing I want to show here for the is to not forget the different agencies that are submitting. Yes, the dollar amount's larger for DoD, but take a look at this. I think this is a pretty good graphic that shows all the players that are competing for the same DoD, the same slice of that 2.2 billion, to include the special operations community or SOF. And special operations, SBIR and STIR program supports full spectrum of special operation forces, acquisition, technology, logistics, science and technology commodity areas by stimulating technology, innovation, and small business through contract awards aimed at discovering, developing, and rapidly inserting new capabilities to solve special operation forces needs. We say problems. Get into the problem space. But if you haven't considered working with these different and various DoD agencies or even the Department of Homeland Security, you may consider that. We've had great feedback about the Department of Homeland Security and working with their Silicon Valley Innovation Program and their SBIR. So just because you're defense focused, do not underestimate or discount the various 11 agencies in total for the SBIR process. So you heard from the SOF AT&L about their needs and how that process works. That's how they tell you. They tell you what problems they're trying to solve, and this is your opportunity to partner with Special Operations, the Army, and other federal agencies. But it all starts with input from the field. That's the problem, or a critical need, a job to be done, something the warfighter has to do, critical mission, critical need. And then that becomes a topic area or a technology requirement. Again, small business innovative research and technology transfer process. He's focused on tech. And again, of course, phase one is that feasibility study. We've seen numbers as high as 150, upwards of $250,000 for a phase one, with the period of performance, period of work lasting for 6 months. And then for a phase two, we've seen as high as 1.5 million for a phase two for prototype development, and your period of work is going to be about 2 years. The Army does have a phase one option, which you can learn more about on the SBIR website. We don't know until the broad agency announcement comes out if there are going to be direct to phase two opportunities, and there may be. If you have a more mature technology and you're ready for prototype, if you're early TRL technology readiness level, you should focus on this phase one and do that feasibility study. Again, that's a decent amount of funds to get you in the game and get you grounded solving DoD and defense needs. Rob, what do you think is important about solving these critical needs and kind of how this process flows and really kind of how it ties into what we do every single week?
Yeah, so the critical needs identifying is very, very important. Yeah, the phase one option doesn't look very attractive for $56,000, and I say that just because it's a small amount of money and there's a lot of effort that goes. But if you can get the phase one or direct to phase two, then you're looking at a lot of opportunity. So phase one option literally is a napkin sketch that somebody thinks is a good idea and they want you to put into practice. So they're going to give you money to do that. In theory, your business is already moving towards developing that prototype anyway and conducting that feasibility study. So the closer you are to, having the feasibility study complete or that prototype actually developed, the more opportunity for better cash that you have. And the reason why soldiers' critical needs is important is, again, we said this 1,000 times and you'll hear us say it again another 1,000 times, is don't be a solution looking for a problem. Go to those warfighters, have those conversations, go to those trade shows, go to those opportunities where you get the chance to talk to soldiers, figure out where their pain points are, and then see if your solution fits with it. If it doesn't fit, find somebody that you can team with to solve that problem, or, come up with something new. But what I've seen is a lot of people have been in and out of, the cyberspace, but a lot of folks do not really get to that phase two or phase three just because they're reliant on those phase $1 doors open. And so they stay in that one because that's the easier one to win because they know how to write the submission correctly and win multiple phase one SBIRs. But if you never get a phase two or phase three and your product never, again, goes commercial or gets adopted into a program of record, then you've got a lot of good ideas that you got paid for, but you haven't turned it into something that is valuable to the Army writ large or the DoD writ large. And so you have to figure out, what's the best path for that? And that's where your DEFTECH team comes. If you have a solution and you want to pitch it, we'll listen to you. If you have a question about the process, and Bob will mention this a little bit later, we do have checklists to help you get through the process. But again, you have to be part of the DEFTECH community to have access to those resources. Even though they are free, we want to make sure that you are doing your due diligence on us as we are going to do our due diligence on you. And one of those pieces is registering for Mobilize and continuing to join us in other aspects of some of the events and things that we're running. But I'll pass it back to Bob.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, that shows we've got a lot going on, and you need to stay plugged in across these different platforms, to include some SBIR training that we recently ran with our partners at First Flight Venture Center. This is on behalf of the Department of Commerce, and it shows the state of North Carolina's commitment to our small businesses to help educate on why SBIRs and STIRs should be on your list of funding, how government agencies are different when it comes to SBIRs and STIRs, and we talk about that every week. In particular, as the period ramps up for SBIR and STIR cycles. And again, we'll see in just a little bit. We're a couple weeks out of the pre-release, so folks should be preparing and be eligible to bid on opportunities. And then we talked about how to break down the process and learn from the strategy. From the slide before, we talked about the top 4 government agencies that use the SBIR program. We also advocated consider exploring the other agencies because they still have a considerable amount of money, and that your topic, your technology could solve an agricultural need when you thought you were going for Department of Energy or Department of Defense. So if you could submit for one agency, as siloed as many government agencies are, they're requesting, a limited pot of money, a fixed amount, and they're solving very similar problems. And I don't know if that will ever change. So what that means is if you're solving an artificial intelligence data aggregate service for machine learning for DoD or one of the services, let's say Army, you can then submit for the Marine Corps, the Air Force. They have a different use case, but the technology, the back end remains the same. Department of Agriculture wants to know about your solution as well to monitor growth patterns and other things. So this was really good training. And Rob, I know you were able to attend one of these as we partnered with our community colleges across the state. You want to talk just a minute about kind of your experience and what you think folks really kind of missed here, and if they register and sign up for the replays, how can they take advantage of these SBIR and STIR training opportunities?
Well, one of the things that was interesting about the training opportunity is you actually had some winners there from various different companies that actually won SBIRs in the last several years to kind of give some insights and kind of give their perspective of the secret sauce of what got them over the hump to win those SBIRs and STTRs. The other piece of it is the networking opportunity. And so a lot of people that opted in for the virtual piece missed out on a great networking opportunity. Hey, let's be honest, and this is not a played political announcement or endorsement of any type. However, we are 3 years past 2020 and COVID is now endemic. So it's just like the flu. Either you're going to get it or you don't. If you've gotten it before, you might get it again. Who knows? If you haven't gotten it and you got vaccinated, then who knows what's going to happen. But what I would tell you is interacting with people is not going away. And it's much easier to interact with people and get the context and be able to read and feel what the room looks and feels like by being physically present. So like if you're virtual all the time, you're missing out on contextual body language that can help you win contract. You can have that discussion. You can have that sidebar. You could have a meal with that person and kind of get their backstory, because sometimes people just get tired of being pitched. And so having the opportunity to kind of network with someone outside of their organization or outside of their sandbox usually is a little bit better opportunity to develop a relationship that may not bear fruit in this SBIR cycle or the next SBIR cycle. But if your company is, personable, guess what? I'm going to pick up the phone and call the person that I want to work with that I have a relationship with. It's pretty standard. And that helps a lot with the teaming opportunities, but it also helps with finding other people in the community, because if you're afraid to pick up the phone and call someone like, ooh, hey, I need somebody that can do data analysis. If I don't have a data analyst that, works in my company, but I have this network of people that I've worked with before, or I've seen before and communicated with at a previous time, I may be interested or more inclined to pick up the phone and call that person and offer them the opportunity rather than, put out an open call on one of the online hiring platforms or whatever. And so by networking is the main thing. Like having those face-to-face touch points are very, very important, whether that be the face-to-face touch point with a warfighter and talking to someone specifically about their needs, or talking to somebody about a business opportunity or B2B opportunity, or talking to a previous winner and figuring out what their technique was that made them to be successful. Yes, it's easy to engage via a computer screen. We've done it for years, but I think the time of staying in office and staying in the home office is starting to go away. And so getting out and going to trade shows and having opportunities like this, particularly when it's free and food is provided, all it's going to cost you is a little bit of time and a little bit of gas, and it's definitely worth it. But I'll pause there and pass it back to Bob
In just a reminder for phase one, basically your technology level 3 and 4. For a phase two technology readiness level of about a 5-6 for that prototype. Now, here's something to note about although firm SBIR and STIR phase one information is retained in the Small Business Administration Award database, which is good because other DoD SBIR STIR components, 12, and the 11 federal SBIR STIR agencies that can choose from your technology and then do a follow-on to a phase two. And there's a lot of success stories about that across the network. So we're pushing 20 minutes or about 15 or 16. So we're going to continue to move here. SBA hasn't updated this yet, but you can see this is the cyclical nature. Here are the federal agencies. And then, of course, within the DoD, the largest slice of the pie has the most components or departments within that: Army, Marines, Navy, and they each use the SBIR process a little bit different. So get with your DEFTECH team. Let us help you navigate the process, and don't go it alone. But if you haven't started, start now, because you have to have your basic UEIs set up. You have to have your SAM account set up, and then you have to have your DSIP or Defense SBIR STIR Innovation Portal set up, because this is where your proposals are going to go. Don't forget to download the broad agency announcement instructions. That's the PDF that you're going to use. That's going to tell you the very specifics. We'll show you an example of that in a minute. And then, of course, you can access the topics. The last SBIR document was about 600 pages long. So you're going to want to get in there and do some keyword searches and find the right opportunity for you. Of course, you can peruse the topics. Will all be listed here. But don't forget, coming up April 19th, you got just a couple more weeks, is the pre-release. So again, get yourself positioned to be eligible to work with the federal government in the SBIR space. And then you've got a short 30-day window. Like Rob said, take advantage of the question and answer period. Pose your questions about the technological feasibility and what exactly they're looking for. They're not going to give you insider tips, but you should be going to industry days and other things to prepare your organization. Of course, you can look at the solicitation listing at any time and see how the given agencies are using SBIR and STIR, the different opportunities. NIH's omnibus solicitation, there's unique opportunities there. So take a look at the release dates, the open dates, the due dates, and of course, the close dates being synonymous. But make sure that you set this as your home page, and don't miss an opportunity because you did something stupid. Make sure you take a look at the templates, the training materials. The federal government wants you to be successful, and they give you the tools and the resources to be successful. So does DEFTECH. Like Rob mentioned, we've got checklists. We're not going to go through this. We covered this extensively. Jim Hargrove did a great job putting these together. But like Rob said, you're only going to get these inside of our mobilized community because we are trying to position North Carolina companies to build awareness, to submit, and win SBIRs and other federal contract mechanisms. Another checklist that was recently completed is for DIU, Defense Innovation Unit, and how they utilize prototyping and other transaction authorities and awards to advance technologies, meet stakeholder needs, and invest in America's small businesses. And then you can see two of the problem statements that are open right now for DIU. One is for hydrogen at the tactical edge for contested logistics, and then finance looking at blockchain and deploying renewable energy systems and other things. So again, these problems are only up for a few weeks. So you've got to be positioned and ready. Using our checklist, you'll understand the process, how to work with the Defense Innovation Unit. You're going to want to show up at our events. At our events, you will hear from the Defense Innovation Unit, Marine Corps Warfighting Lab, Special Operations Command. You'll hear from JSOC and other agencies and other federal government departments on what their needs are, what their requirements are. And if you're not gonna, if you're gonna join us, welcome. If you're not, you need to put this on your schedule to join us here in about 2 weeks, April 12th and 13th, down in Wilmington for our construction summit. I'm going to show you how DEFTECH plays a role in the summits for construction, textiles in May, medical, biomedical, biodefense in June, and then, of course, the Defense Technology Symposium coming up all here in North Carolina. There's no major travels. The Defense Technology Symposium is also tied in with the AUSA Warfighter Summit and Exposition. So this is going to be a great one-day event where we're going to have companies are going to be displayed. We're going to coordinate with partners for activities the night before. And then, of course, you're going to want to listen to the panels and the innovation roundtables and discussions about what the current needs are, in particular, the unfinanced and unforecasted requirements. We've got UFR lists that have come out, so you can get with your DEFTECH team to see what those needs are. Rob, you want to say anything about the importance of these different events and why folks should attend?
Again, it goes back to in-person opportunities are what we need to do. If you're not talking face-to-face with people, it doesn't give you the opportunity to really give the chance to understand, the needs of the warfighter. You can read them, but it's only, just like a pitch proposal that's PowerPoint deep. You have to do more than just, look at it on the screen. You have to get some context to the problem that you're really trying to solve. And so by being able to do that, it brings a great opportunity for all, both the soldiers to interact with the businesses, the businesses to interact with other businesses, and the government to interact with. And so bringing all those things to the table, it creates opportunities for you to have the best chance, again, to present and win your opportunity. One of the other things that Bob mentioned is the checklists that were done. So those checklists that Jim Hargrove put together that are inside of our mobilized community, those checklists are both been vetted, one by the Army Research Office. So we've actually had our representative and ARO in Raleigh take a look at it, as well as DIU took a look at those checklists to make sure that they hit target with their requirements. So it's not just some random SIBR document that, we created going through checklist of submissions. It was actually vetted by the organizations which they're intended to go. And so by presenting them to those organizations, it gives you a guideline as a participant and mobilize to take a look at those documents and refine what you already have. And that's what we're really about. It's like, look, we're not trying to create your business from the bottom up and try and get you to win or pitch to the government. What we want to do is take what you already have, massage it so it hits target with a lot more accuracy. And that's what we're about, is precision with your time. And that's the important piece: precision with your time, precision with your dollars, with your effort. And so one of the best parts about DEFTECH is we're free, but it costs you a little bit of time to get the results of what we can provide to you. The events are the same way. We're going to have innovation corners at all of these events. So as we're sitting in these innovation corners, what that allows you to do is it allows you to give your pitch, and you get to work on it and refine it. And walking the floor is just another opportunity to work on your pitch. And it goes back to, hey, which pitch am I going to do when I interact with this person? Do I have my 5-minute pitch, my elevator pitch, or do I have 10 to 15 minutes? And so each one of these organizations that are listed on the slides are going to have the opportunity to pitch what they're working on to government organizations. And, oh, by the way, they're going to be in the event. Though not only do they get to do the innovation corner, but they get to walk the floor and talk to other businesses and do business-to-business contact. And any of the uniformed service members or GSN support will be there as well. And so now you have an opportunity to tie in, to find those warfighter issues and those warfighter touch points to give yourself the best opportunity to continue to win in the DoD workspace. But I'll pass it back to Bob, and we can close this thing out. But again, we are going to be giving you multiple opportunities to talk about your technology.
Yep, nailed it. All it takes is a 4-block quad chart. Want to show one thing real quick as companies are getting ready for their submissions for this next SBIR cycle. If you're not paying attention to these broad agency announcements, I told you we pull one up. You need to look at the cybersecurity requirements. You're required to provide adequate security and all covered contractor information. And then it talks about specific requirements and incident reporting from the DFARS or the Defense Federal Acquisition Regulations. And then safeguarding defense-related information, CUI and other things. And the government, of course, just overclassifies everything. So you're more than likely going to touch CUI, even if you don't want to. So you've got to be prepared and have your NIST 800-171 protections and standardization in place so that you can protect and controlled unclassified information in non-federal information systems and organizations. One last link we'll talk about is the Blue Cyber process. Great education, great learning for you and your organization to get ready to submit. So don't forget, there are cyber requirements. We're not talking CMMC, not the discussion. Set up a call with your DEFTECH team, but NIST 800-171, basic compliance for all federal contracting. So, Rob, back to you. We'll close it out, and I think that was a power-packed session, so thank you.
Yeah, so final note is not only are we going to give you opportunities to talk about your community and talk about your technology, we're going to do it face-to-face, but again, we're not going to neglect the virtual, even though I've just been pounding the desk about you being face-to-face with. We're going to give you the opportunity. So there is a DEFTECH registration form for the podcast. If you want to do the DEFTECH podcast, let us know. We do small business showcases for those that are willing to volunteer. If you give me 30 minutes of your time, we will give you a segment that we will talk about your technology, your background, what government problem that you're trying to solve, and what opportunities that you're trying to go after. So this actually gives us an opportunity to build a artifact of your technology, to talk about it. And again, it's just another opportunity to refine your pitch. And so this will be an archived opportunity, but again, we will put that out on all of our social medias and in our mobilized community, and it will give you another touch point for those B2B and those warfighter touch points that are required to continue to develop your process. But without further ado, we're going to wrap this thing up. I'm Rob Robinson. I'm your host here at Defense Technology Talks, along with my colleague Bob Burton, and we will talk to you guys next time. Thanks. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Defense Technology Talks, hosted by the North Carolina Defense Technology Transition Office, or DEFTECH. The views expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the individual contributors. As indicated, DEFTECH does not take responsibility for those statements or opinions and accepts no responsibility or liability for any inaccuracy or omissions reported during this program. The content and interviews are fair use for instructional purposes and to build awareness for the North Carolina innovation ecosystem. The full version of this presentation has been uploaded to our Mobilize platform. Mobilize is just another free service provided to you to access more national security and business collaboration opportunities. You can sign up for more information at deftech.nc.gov. Join us soon for the next podcast coming to a platform near you. DEFTECH is a subsidiary of the North Carolina Military Business Center and receives its support from Fayetteville Technical Community College.